Opening day is officially upon us for the 2024 Major League Baseball season. I figured now would be the perfect time to give my full prediction for the season. In this video, I'm going to give my predictions about how I think each division will pan out, what teams will win wildcard spots, how I think the playoffs will play out, who will win every award, and much more. Without further ado, let's get the predictions rolling. Starting off with the AL East, I think the Boston Red Sox are going to finish in 5th place. On paper, this team isn't bad at all. The starting lineup is pretty good, while the starting rotation and bullpen are both okay. However, I just think the other 4 teams in the division are much better than them. They were definitely the best 5th place team in the league last year, and I don't see that changing this year. They'll probably finish just under 500 again if I had to guess. My 4th place team in the AL East is the Tampa Bay Rays. I really hate betting against the Rays, but I just don't see them finishing higher in the standings than the 3 teams ahead of them. They traded Tyler Glasnow this offseason while replacing him with Ryan Pepiot, who isn't as good. Other than that, they are projected to have Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, and Jeffrey Springs for at least the majority of the season. While they always find ways to be competitive, I think this is the year the team's play falls off a bit. My 3rd place team in the AL East is the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are a tough team to predict. They've had great lineups and starting rotations for the past 2 seasons, but have failed to win a single playoff game. Their offense should be very good if Vladdy has a bounce-back season, and their starting rotation should be top 10 in the league. Despite this, I think they're very similar to last year's team and will finish 3rd in the AL East yet again. My 2nd place team in the AL East is the New York Yankees. The Yankees missed the playoffs last season for the first time since 2016 and went out and acquired Juan Soto this offseason. While Garrett Cole will miss at least the first 2 months of the season, I think the offense will be good enough to take them to 2nd in the division. I am pretty concerned about the starting rotation without Cole though. A healthy Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and Anthony Rizzo should instantly make this team better than they were last year. My 1st place team in the AL East is the Baltimore Orioles. I predicted the Orioles would snag a wildcard spot last season, and they surpassed my high expectations of them. This team's young core is only going to get better with more Major League experience under their belts. With the addition of Corbin Burns, they have a reliable ace for the first time in forever. While they will have Felix Bautista, Craig Kimbrell should be a serviceable closer to pair with Yennier Cano at the end of the bullpen. I think another 100-win season is definitely possible for the O's. Next up is the AL Central, and my 5th place team is the Chicago White Sox. This shouldn't surprise anyone, as they're clearly the worst team in the division. Now that they don't even have Dylan Cease, they only have a few quality Major League players on the roster. Luis Robert Jr. on this team is basically that meme of a Bugatti parked in the driveway of a beat-up mobile home. I would be shocked if they're not a bottom 5 team in baseball by the end of the season. My 4th place team in the AL Central is the Kansas City Royals. The Royals only won 56 games in 2023 and probably improved more than any team this offseason. They signed Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Will Smith, Chris Stratton, Hunter Renfroe, and Adam Frazier. While this team looks much better on paper, I think they're just the 4th best team in the division. They'll probably end up in the low 70s with their win total, which would be a big success in my opinion for the team and their fans. My 3rd place team in the AL Central is the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians went from winning 92 games in 2022 to only 76 in 2023 and made basically 0 upgrades this offseason. Outside of Jose Ramirez, there are a few good hitters like the Naylor brothers, Stephen Kwan, and Andres Jimenez on the team. Besides them, the rest of the offense consists of below average hitters. While the pitching rotation is very good, I think their awful offense is going to hold them back from winning more than 80-ish games. My 2nd place team in the AL Central is the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers won 78 games last year while making some upgrades this offseason. They brought in Kenta Maeda, Jack Flaherty, Mark Canha, and a few quality relievers. I think Spencer Torkelson and a few of their young players will have more success in 2024. However, I don't think these additions will be enough to win the division yet. I wouldn't be shocked if they somehow win the division, as it is pretty weak, but I just think they're a year away from contending. My 1st place team in the AL Central is the Minnesota Twins. I know a lot of people are predicting the Royals and Tigers to win this division, but the Twins are by far the best team in the AL Central still. Despite losing Sonny Gray, their starting rotation is pretty solid, and the starting lineup should only get better if Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton are able to stay healthy. It shouldn't take much more than 90 wins to win this division, and I think they'll get it done. The last American League division to discuss is the AL West, and my 5th place team there is the Oakland A's. There's really not much to say about this team. It's pretty pathetic how their ownership literally refuses to spend any money to try and compete. I like them picking up vets like Alex Wood, Ross Stripling, and JD Davis, but they're the worst team in baseball right now, and I don't think that's going to change for a few years. My 4th place team in the AL West is the Los Angeles Angels. The Angels won 73 games last season with Shohei Ohtani recording 10 B-WAR for the team. They've done basically nothing to replace his bat or his arm. I like some of their young players like Logan O'Hoppe and Reed Detmers, but they don't have nearly enough talent to compete in this division right now. A healthy Mike Trout would go a long way, but this team has 70 wins written all over them. My 3rd place team in the AL West is the Seattle Mariners. It pains me to predict the Mariners finishing 3rd in the division, but I just think the 2 teams ahead of them have more talent. While their starting rotation is probably the best in baseball, I don't know if the offense is good enough to take them to over 90 wins, which is probably needed to win the division. I like the additions of Mitch Garver and Jorge Polanco, but I just see them finishing 3rd in the AL West again. My 2nd place team in the AL West is the Houston Astros. While the Astros have won the division in 6 of the last 7 seasons, I don't think they're going to win it this year. Their starting pitching staff is very beat up right now, and the bullpen outside of the big 3 isn't looking too good. I think the team's success this season will ultimately be determined by Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, and Yordan Alvarez. They're still a great team, but I don't think they'll win the division. My 1st place team in the AL West is the Texas Rangers. A lot of what I just said about the Astros can also be said about the Rangers. Their starting pitching staff is very banged up, and their bullpen has a ton of question marks. The reason I think why they'll win the division is because of how good their offense is. They scored the most runs in the American League last season, and will add Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford to the stacked lineup this season. I definitely expect this team to win close to 100 games this season. Now we're on to the National League, so let's start with the NL East, where my 5th place team is the Washington Nationals. The Nats won 71 games last year, which is a lot more games than basically everyone expected them to win. As much as I like what they're building in Washington, I'd be shocked if they don't finish last in the division. The other 4 teams just have more talent right now, and although I like their young players like Abrams and Gore, they're going to finish in the cellar again. My 4th place team in the NL East is the New York Mets. The Mets' 2023 season was a colossal disaster, as they finished 4th in the division and drastically underperformed. This past offseason, they didn't make any big upgrades, as their biggest signings were Luis Severino and JD Martinez. While the return of Edwin Diaz will help their bullpen, the ace of their pitching staff is Jose Quintana. That being said, I don't think they'll have enough pitching to compete this season. My 3rd place team in the NL East is the Miami Marlins. The Fish shocked the baseball world in 2023, making the playoffs for the 4th time in franchise history. As much as I like this team, I don't think they have enough to get back to the playoffs in 2024. They'll be without Sandy Alcantara for the whole season, and Edward Cabrera and Yuri Perez are both dealing with injuries. While their offense should be better than last year, I think they'll finish around 500 by the season's end. My 2nd place team in the NL East is the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies are looking awesome heading into 2024. The lineup is fully healthy right now, and Trey Turner should have a better season than he did in 2023. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola are awesome at the front of the rotation, and they have a ton of quality arms there and in their bullpen. They won 90 games last season, and I don't see why they can't win 95 plus this season. My 1st place team in the NL East is the Atlanta Braves. This selection was incredibly easy. The Braves are at worst the 2nd best team in baseball, as they basically have 0 holes in the roster. They scored the most runs last season, and are bringing back the same lineup in 2024. While I am concerned about Max Fried staying healthy, they have enough pitching to easily win another 100 games in 2024. Up next is the NL Central, and my 5th place team is the St. Louis Cardinals. In my preseason power rankings video, I have the Cardinals ranked as the 2nd best team in the division right now. However, by the end of the 2024 season, I think they'll finish in last place again. While signing Sonny Gray will help their pitching, he's already hurt and won't make the opening day roster. Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn aren't great starters, but they should eat up innings for this team. I just don't see the massive turnaround for this team that a lot of people are predicting. My 4th place team in the NL Central is the Milwaukee Brewers. After winning 92 games in the NL Central in 2023, the Brewers had an interesting offseason. They traded Corbin Burns for DL Hall and Joey Ortiz, signed Rhys Hoskins, and lost quality free agents such as Carlos Santana, Julio Teheran, and Andrew Chafin. This season, they'll be without Brandon Woodruff for the whole year and without Devin Williams for at least 2 months. While top prospect Jackson Chourio should help the team, I just think the other teams in the division passed them up. My 3rd place team in the NL Central is the Cincinnati Reds. Some people are predicting the Reds to win the division this year, but I just don't see it yet. Frankie Montas, Hunter Green, and Nick Lodolo all have dealt with their shares of injuries recently. Noelvi Marte will miss the first 80 games of the season due to a suspension, while Matt McClain might not play a game this season due to shoulder surgery, and TJ Frieda won't play at least for a few weeks. I think they'll be competitive again this year, but I just don't see them winning the division yet. My 2nd place team in the NL Central is the Chicago Cubs. I'm sure a lot of you are surprised by my predictions for the NL Central, but let me talk about the Cubs before I talk about the 1st place team. The Cubs had a sneaky good offseason as they re-signed Cody Bellinger for 3 years, while also bringing in Shoto Imanaga, Hector Neris, and Michael Busch. I like this team in basically every aspect, as they're above average in basically every category. I think they should definitely win at least 85 games this year. My 1st place team in the NL Central is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Before you all freak out in the comments, what fun would a predictions video be if I picked all the favorites to win every division? This Pirates team has all the upbringings of a surprisingly competitive team to me. They have great young talent in Cabrian Hayes and Oneil Cruz, who hit 7 home runs and 41 at-bats this spring if you didn't know. They brought in some veterans such as Michael A. Taylor, Martin Perez, and Roldis Chapman on reasonable 1-year deals. They have the first overall pick in the 2021 draft, Henry Davis, who looks ready to break out. Every aspect of their team looks pretty good to me. With no team looking dominant in the NL Central, I think the Pirates are going to be the surprise team of the 2024 Major League Baseball season. The last National League division to discuss is the NL West, and my 5th place team there is the Colorado Rockies. This selection should surprise literally no one, as they are by far the worst team in the division. Even if Chris Bryant returns to his old MVP form, I don't see this team winning much more than 65 games. The starting rotation is looking really weak, and the offense isn't looking promising enough to compete in Coors Field. My 4th place team in the NL West is the San Diego Padres. The Padres underperformed all expectations in 2023 and lost a ton of key pieces this offseason. They lost the reigning NL Cy Young winner in Blake Snell, the best closer in baseball in Josh Hader, and traded top 5 player in the league away in Juan Soto. While they were able to acquire Michael King and Dylan Cease, their bottom of the lineup is looking really weak to me right now, and I don't see them scoring too many runs on the season. My 3rd place team in the NL West is the San Francisco Giants. The Giants had an awesome offseason, as their front office clearly wasn't satisfied with being mediocre. They committed over $300 million to Blake Snell, Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler, Jordan Hicks, and Tom Murphy. The team is looking very good on paper right now. As good as they look, the 2 teams I think will finish ahead of them had great offseasons of their own. While I think they'll finish ahead of the Padres, I think they have 3rd place in the division written all over them. My 2nd place team in the NL West is the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Snakes came out of nowhere in 2023, making the playoffs and going all the way to the World Series. Although I do say out of nowhere, I predicted them to make the playoffs before the season, so it wasn't all surprising to me. They made some awesome upgrades in the offseason, bringing in Jordan Montgomery, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk, and Eugenio Suarez. As their young players improve, I don't see why the team as a whole won't get better. My 1st place team in the NL West is the Los Angeles Dodgers. As much as the Giants and Diamondbacks improved, the Dodgers still run this division. They won it by over 17 games last year, while most people predicted the Padres would win it. They committed over $1 billion this offseason to Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and Teoscar Hernandez. They won 100 games without those 4 guys last season, so I don't see why 110 wins is out of the question for them in 2024. Now let's talk about the playoffs. For the American League playoffs, I think the Orioles will secure the 1 seed again, while the Rangers snag the 2 seed and the Twins get the 3 seed. My first wildcard team earning the 4 seed is the Houston Astros. I think they're barely going to lose the division this year, but they still should win 90 games, which probably gets them the top wildcard spot. My second wildcard team earning the 5 seed is the New York Yankees. The team's offense should be much better with Juan Soto. That addition alone probably makes them a playoff team. My third wildcard team earning the 6th seed is the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners pitching staff is elite, and with improved offense, I definitely like them to make the playoffs. For the American League wildcard round, the first matchup we have is the 3-seeded Twins versus the 6-seeded Mariners. I'm going with the Mariners in 3 games. The 3-headed monsters Luis Castillo, George Kirby, and Logan Gilbert can probably beat any team in a 3-game series. I really like the Mariners in this matchup. The second matchup in the American League wildcard round we have is the 4-seeded Astros versus the 5-seeded Yankees. I'm going with the Astros in 2 games. As much as the Yankees could totally win a playoff game with Garrett Cole on the mound, the Astros are a different breed in the playoffs. They made it to the ALCS in 7 straight seasons, and I don't see them losing before the division series. For the American League divisional series, the first matchup we have is the 1-seeded Orioles versus the 4-seeded Astros. I'm going with the Orioles in 5 games. When I look at this Orioles team, they remind me so much of the Astros. They underwent a long rebuild, drafted very high and selected some great players, and then became a dynasty after breaking out. I think this 2024 Orioles team is a lot better than the 2023 team that won 101 games, and I think they'll be able to get past the Astros in a fantastic 5-game series. The second matchup in the American League divisional series is the 2-seeded Rangers versus the 6-seeded Mariners. I'm going with the Rangers in 4 games. As much as I'd love to see the Mariners go on a crazy playoff run, I think this Rangers team is incredibly talented and is a lot better than last year. By the time the playoffs roll around, they should have Max Scherzer back and a lineup with Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter in it. I think that's going to be too much for the Mariners pitching staff to handle. For the American League Championship Series, we have the 1-seeded Orioles versus the 2-seeded Rangers. I'm going with the Orioles in 7 games. These two teams look absolutely loaded on paper, and a playoff rematch between them would be must-see TV. There's no one reason why I think the Orioles are going to win this series. I like the young players, and they should all keep improving as they get more Major League experience. The Rangers are also great too, as the lineup looks just as ridiculous and maybe even better than the Orioles lineup. I ultimately think the Orioles starting rotation will be better by the time the playoffs roll around, and I think that pitching will be the difference in this series. I can't tell you guys how much this 2024 Orioles team reminds me of the 2017 Astros. I think they'll make the World Series this year. For the National League playoffs, I think the Dodgers will secure the 1 seed, while the Braves snag the 2 seed and the Pirates get the 3 seed. My first wildcard team earning the 4 seed is the Philadelphia Phillies. This really shouldn't surprise anyone, as they're pretty clearly the best National League team besides the Dodgers and Braves. They're very solid in basically every aspect and will probably win a few divisions if they were in a different one. My second wildcard team earning the 5 seed is the Arizona Diamondbacks. As much as the Snakes improved, I still have the Dodgers, Braves, and Phillies over them. I still think they'll improve this season, and I think they'll for sure make it back to the playoffs. My third wildcard team earning the 6th seed is the San Francisco Giants. I was tempted to pick the Cubs here, but I think the Giants, who won 79 games in 2023, improved so much that they have to be good enough to make the playoffs. Now let's move on to the National League playoffs. For the National League wildcard round, the first matchup we have is the 3-seeded Pirates versus the 6-seeded Giants. I'm going with the Pirates in 3 games. Feel free to say whatever you want about me liking the Pirates, but I'm telling you guys, I really think they're underrated. While they probably don't fare well in short series, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Paul Skeens helps them win a playoff game this season. Mitch Keller is very solid too, and I just think they're going to shock the world. The second matchup in the National League wildcard round we have is the 4-seeded Phillies versus the 5-seeded Diamondbacks. I'm going with the Phillies in 2 games. Here's another playoff rematch from last year, and I just think the Phillies are going to dominate this one. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola are very difficult to beat in a 3-game series, and I just think they easily take out the Snakes here. For the National League divisional series, the first matchup we have is the 1-seeded Dodgers versus the 4-seeded Phillies. I'm going with the Dodgers in 5 games. I really wish we saw these teams meet in the playoffs last year, because they both have tons of superstar power. I know the Phillies seemingly play better in the playoffs, while the Dodgers don't, but I just think the addition of Shohei Ohtani is going to be too much for the Phillies pitching to handle. The second matchup in the National League divisional series is the 2-seeded Braves versus the 3-seeded Pirates. I'm going with the Braves in 3 games. This is where I think the Pirates' miracle run comes to an end. The Braves are just simply a way better team, and it'll be way too much for the inexperienced Pirates to handle in the playoffs. I think the Braves easily sweep this series. For the National League Championship Series, we have the 1-seeded Dodgers versus the 2-seeded Braves. I'm going with the Dodgers in 6 games. If baseball fans don't see this playoff series this year, it will be a massive letdown. These two teams meeting together in this year's playoffs would be one of the greatest series of all time. Either team could very well win this amazing duel, but I just think the Dodgers are going to take it. Neither team's starting pitching is over the top dominant as of right now, so I think it could go down to a slugfest and a battle between the bullpens. I give the upper hand to the Dodgers bullpen, as it's incredibly deep and pretty underrated. I really hope that we see these two teams meet in the playoffs. Finally, for the World Series, we have the American League champion Orioles versus the National League champion Dodgers. I'm going with the Dodgers in 6 games. This would be an epic World Series. The Orioles represent an upcoming team who looks to be the next decade-long dominant team like the Dodgers have been recently. I think the Dodgers are basically better in every aspect than the Orioles, although it might not be by much. The Dodgers also have all the pressure in the world on them to win, so I think they finally get it done in a full 162-game season. I know the Orioles already traded for an ace in Corbin Burns, but I think they might need to make another trade for an elite starting pitcher at the trade deadline, unless Grayson Rodriguez breaks out like some people speculate. Call me biased or whatever, but I just see the Dodgers finishing the job this year. Now that I'm done with my playoff predictions, let's get into awards predictions. Starting off with American League Rookie of the Year, I'm going with Wyatt Langford of the Texas Rangers. I think this award comes down to both of the Rangers' young studs in Langford and Evan Carter, but I'm going with Langford on this one. He's put up literally ridiculous numbers at every level throughout his playing career, and I think his skills translate to the big leagues sooner than later. I don't want to say he's the next Mike Trout, but everything I've seen from him resembles the type of player that could be the best player in the league for a long time, like Trout was for a while. Next up for National League Rookie of the Year, I'm going with Yoshinobu Yamamoto of the Los Angeles Dodgers. While Yamamoto struggled in his first game against the Padres, I think he'll eventually get in a groove and have a really good 2024 season. His numbers in Japan were absolutely unreal, and I think he'll find success in the majors sooner than a lot lot of people expect. The projected National League rookie class looks pretty weak to me also, so I don't see much other competition for the award. The next award I predict is MVP, and for my American League MVP, I'm going with Corey Seager of the Texas Rangers. Well, Seager's had a hard time staying healthy for a full season as of recent. The Rangers lineup is so talented that he could take a day off every now and then if it means he's at his best self. Besides that, he finished second in AL MVP voting while only playing 119 games last season, which is honestly unheard of. I really hope Seager continues to find success in Texas as a Dodgers fan, as he's always been one of my favorite players. This dude is incredible, and I don't see him slowing down in 2024. I expect another monster year from him. Next up for National League MVP, I'm going with Fernando Tatis Jr. of the San Diego Padres. I see most people predicting Acuna or one of the Dodgers' big three to win this award, but I'm going a bit out of the box with this prediction. While Tatis' bat took a step back in 2023, he became the best defensive player in the sport. Assuming he gets back to his usual offensive superstar self in 2024, combining that with his elite defense, I don't see why he can't finally win an MVP. I also think he has something to prove too, as a lot of people disrespected him for getting suspended in 2022. The Padres are going to need a really great year from him to get back to the playoffs, and I think he shuts a lot of people up this year. The next award I'll predict is Cy Young, and for my American League Cy Young, I'm going with George Kirby of the Seattle Mariners. I'm not confident in this pick as some of my others, because there are a lot of great candidates in the same tier pitchers in the American League. I'm choosing Kirby for a few reasons. In his 2-year big league career, he hasn't missed a single start, and really improves in his second major league season. He lowered his whip from 1.2 to 1.04 last year, as he only walked 19 batters in 190 innings. To go along with his elite command, Kirby pitches in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in T-Mobile Park, so I think his ERA will be lower as a result of that in 2024. Kirby is no doubt one of the most underrated pitchers in the league right now, and I think he solidifies himself as a household name this year. Next up for National League Cy Young, I'm going with Zach Wheeler of the Philadelphia Phillies. While Spencer Strider is the overwhelming favorite for this award, I think Wheeler is due to finally win a Cy Young. While his ERA was 3.61 in 2023, his expected ERA was 3.18, which is in the 88th percentile. Much like Kirby, Wheeler hasn't dealt with any major injuries for almost a decade now, as he's been consistently elite for about 3 years now. It's pretty wild to see he's only made one All-Star team in his career, because he's been great for so long. I don't think Wheeler gets called an ace as much as he should, because he also has a career 2.42 ERA in the playoffs, and has all the makings of one of the best pitchers in baseball. I know he's almost 34 years old, but I really like Wheeler to win this award this year. Now that I've gone through the major awards, I'll briefly go over who I think will lead baseball in certain stats for the season. For the home run leader, I think it'll be Pete Alonso of the New York Mets. Alonso has hit 192 home runs in not even 700 career games, and has been consistently one of the best sluggers in baseball since he debuted in 2019. Not to mention, he's a free agent after the year, which I think will probably give him some extra motivation to have a monster season. There's probably about 5 to 6 other guys who I think can lead the sport in home runs, but I think Alonso will be on a mission this year to get paid in the offseason. For the hits leader, I'm going with Freddie Freeman of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Freddie's been one of the most consistent pure hitters in the league for over a decade now, and he isn't showing any signs of slowing down. He hasn't missed over 5 games in a season since 2017, and has hit over 290 in every season since 2015. With the Dodgers having tons of power hitters in their lineup, I think Freddie will shorten up his swing even more this year, and focus on getting on base as much as possible through hitting singles and doubles. He's led the league in hits twice in his career, and I think he will do it for a 3rd time in 2024. For the stolen bases leader, I'm going with Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves. While Acuna stole over 70 bases in 2023, this is definitely my least confident prediction for a leader in a stat. I expect there to be a ton of competition from Esteury Ruiz, Elly De La Cruz, Bobby Witt Jr., and Corbin Carroll to steal the most bags in 2024. However, Acuna gets on base so much that I think he could easily steal 70 bases again. I don't see why he won't be stealing bases right away if he's fully healthy. For the strikeouts leader, I'm going with Spencer Strider of the Atlanta Braves. Sorry to disappoint picking the overwhelming favorite here, but with Garrett Cole out the first 2 months of the season, Strider should easily lead the league in strikeouts barring an injury. He struck out 44 more batters than Kevin Gausman, who came in second in the stat in 2023, and has looked basically unhittable this spring with his new curveball. I would be absolutely stunned if Strider makes every start this season and somehow doesn't lead the sport in strikeouts. Finally, for the saves leader, I'm going with Emmanuel Clase of the Cleveland Guardians. While Josh Hader and Edwin Diaz are popular picks for this, I think Clase will lead the league in saves again. The Guardians' offense is pretty weak, while their starting rotation is very solid, so there should be tons of opportunities for saves for Clase this season. He got 55 save opportunities last year, and I think he should easily be able to get that again in 2024. I think the Guardians are literally the perfect team for a closer to boost his stock, and think Clase is primed to get close to 50 saves this year. That's going to do it for the video today. I'm so excited that the 2024 season is underway, and I hope you guys feel the same way too. This video took me so long to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Please comment down below your predictions for the season, along with letting me know what you think of my predictions. I appreciate everyone supporting the channel, and hope to see you in the next video.